Hello and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea, and today I would like to share with you more on the information I've received from a 25th dimension during my last BQH hypnosis session. I'll be reading from a transcript of the session, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of a practitioner who's asking me questions I prepared in advance of the session, unless she otherwise states so. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means the answers are coming from the 25th. So I'm going to jump in here, but before I do, I want to thank you as always for subscribing, liking, and commenting on this video. It really makes a huge difference, and you might not realize from your end, but the way the YouTube algorithm works is that the more people interact with a video, the more people it gets shown to. And so we are trying to find out who still has an essence here. So it's important to spread this message. All right, Lorrayne. Recently, a guy on YouTube called qhht that many people listen to said that in December timeframe, based on his computer analysis, which analyzes the emotional state of what people post on the internet, said that in December, there's going to be disclosure that is so jarring to the majority of humanity that even those of us that have foreknowledge of what we've been talking about will, using his term, go to the bathroom and vomit. Can you? And the 25th didn't even let her finish the end of the question because they jumped in and said, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So he's obviously, we already know his predictive programming has been wrong before. And because, again, he's dealing with 3D things, so obviously cannot really predict. You cannot predict the future. There is no future. And so he wants to believe certain things as well, which of course means that he's affecting the results he gets. He feels very safe where he is. So he feels very comfortable predicting certain things because, again, like these people saying, I want this exposed, they feel safe. I'm sitting on my couch in my comfortable home. I'm just watching something on TV and they should get what they have coming. These people have done wrong and therefore they should be punished. They don't realize that, again, because we cannot separate ourselves. There is no them. First of all, these people are gone. So who's actually being exposed? Is it a matter of us at a 3D level knowing certain things? We already do know them. And especially the people that are left. We've known them for a long time. So what is it about really? So qhht again, and he's gone to qhht. He feels safe. He lives isolated. He grows his own food. He feels safe in putting out certain information. But no, it's not correct. We already said many times we have no interest in doing this. And we even brought up the example a few minutes ago where we said, look at what angle they're using across the world in governments, in Congress. These people are not innocent by our standards of innocence. Look what arguments they're using to recall this thing. Do you see? It's never about, we don't want exposure. We don't want this to be so tragic. It's tragic already as it is. And so, no, none of this is going to happen. Of course, they keep moving the carrot. Now it's going to be in December. December is going to come and go. And now it's going to be in February. They always have to keep you under that spell. We have somebody in the group saying November 8th. Claire remembers this date, November 8th. Something's going to happen. But she also remembers that before November 8th, the same person says something was going to happen. She believes it was sometime in September. And yes, I do. And I'm actually recording this, and today is December 1st, even though the session happened on November 14th. And by the time this is released, we might be in January. And I am fairly sure nothing will have happened by that because here's, this has been the trend, it's been the pattern to keep us in the state of agitation and anticipation. So yeah, it's kind of boring actually. So this is how we are. We are carried outside of ourselves. We're always waiting for something tied to a date that is going to happen. And this is why we know that when we first told you about the takedown and everybody was very much keen on a certain period of time, there was so much disappointment because we do like here to be tied to a date. Now, we kept you abreast of what was happening behind the scenes, that we expected things to pan out, obviously, the way you had planned them. And in fact, many of the things related to the takedown have taken place. There aren't many of us left here now, but you are the ones that changed, that decided to do this one more thing. But this is not what they're telling you here, is it? They're telling you somebody else outside is saying that we've been working behind the scenes, and now at this point, this is going to happen. But you see, this keeps moving from month to month, from year to year. It's a very different perspective. Again, a perspective that has nothing to do with you, does it? When you think about predictive programming, it's a computer program, which sounds so objective because it's a computer program. It's not like a pesky human doing this prediction. It's a computer program. I mean, you know how technology works. Technology is stupid, and they were laughing. But we always like to pretend technology is all powerful. So now there's a computer program that has predicted this and is picking up from the internet. From where? Who is it picking it up from? What emotions are they picking up? Really, when you start dissecting these things, you realize how flimsy they are. They would only resonate, you would only believe them if you want to believe them. Because otherwise you start breaking them down and you realize that it makes no sense whatsoever. None of this makes sense and it's not going to happen. We already said this. Lorrayne, I don't believe any of it. And even we keep moving the carrot on ourselves. She was laughing. Me. Exactly. That's why we don't tell you this is going to happen. Because the fact is, we didn't think you guys would change your plan. You've changed the plan. And who knows, you might change it again. We're not going to tell you this is it. Because a takedown, everything has been going to plan for a very long time. We already said you've been working on this takedown for 300 years. And so the only reason we're telling you what you take as a timeline, we're really telling you you're done with 90% of what needed to be done. We use this analogy many times that it's like a warehouse. If you know you almost emptied out the warehouse, you expect it's going to take you, at the rate you've been working, it's going to take you another couple of weeks to finish emptying it out. Great. But nobody can tell you you're going to finish on Monday, you're going to finish on Wednesday. Not only that you get there and you decide, well, you know, I had a great time emptying out this warehouse. Let me go empty out another storage unit. And that's pretty much what you did. So again, the essence is free. What we are telling you, all we are telling you is, besides the timeline that you're given, again, we're moving this carrot, is that the idea here, for example, that there is a future we can predict, it doesn't work that way. It's about the experience you're having right now. So what we are telling you is, are you wanting the experience, this exposure? No, you don't, period. And therefore, it will never happen. Lorrayne, thank you. All right, next question from Prani. Does the 25th say anything about listening to our mind/thoughts versus doing things spontaneously? I don't see the point in anything my thoughts claim. Me. We enjoy Prani very much. Yes, so of course, it's all part of the experience that the essence wants to explore. And therefore, some want to be more spontaneous. Some want to believe that they are more calculated, more rational, more logical. It's never-ending comparison between Spock and the captain in Star Trek, if you wish. So that's perfectly fine. Either way is fine. If Prani is starting to feel like, you know what, I've been so pent up, I've been too tied to my logic mind, and I see that it's really not giving me any pleasure, I would rather be more spontaneous, that's exactly what you should do. The bottom line is, we've said this many times, things, concepts do not come into your awareness out of nowhere. Things are being pushed into your awareness. Well, by you really. You're your higher self, but by your higher self. Say you're at a point in your life where you want to look at things differently because you're wanting to transition or transform your experience. Perhaps for his experience in the next several months, it needs to be more spontaneous. And all of a sudden, he's thinking, let's see how that goes. How would that work? Would the 25th approve? And they were laughing. You see, he's still asking outside of himself. We told him in the past for other questions he's asked us. He already knows all the answers. The question is, why is he thinking this? Why is he thinking that he should be more spontaneous or that his thoughts have let him down? At the end of the day, it's always him. And even if he now becomes more spontaneous, does it mean that he was wrong in following his thought process before? Clearly, his thoughts have served him very well because they've gotten him to this point. So he's just looking for a different experience. And so he's wondering, is it okay for me not to be as tight, as disciplined, as rational, what we consider rational, as I was before? Is it okay for me to be more spontaneous? We want to repeat one thing we always say, your emotions are a lighthouse. If you want to use that analogy, they tell you where you're trying to get to, and it's not an answer, but it is a question. These emotions, when you have them, look at them and say, why am I feeling this way? Why is he feeling like he wants to be more spontaneous? that his thoughts have let him down? That's a question. Why would this thought come into his mind? If he was still on the same path as before, this thought would not have come into his mind. A logical person who wants to stay logical does not question thoughts. Why is he talking about being more spontaneous? And it doesn't mean that it's because there is more value in being spontaneous. Another person might be doing exactly the opposite. Another person might be going through a life experience where they're saying, you know, my spontaneity has gotten me into so much trouble. I just have to stop this. And I need to become more cautious and more conservative. And so they're having the exact opposite experience. Doesn't mean that one is right and the other is wrong. Lorrayne. Okay, Pranny has another question. Can you confirm the purpose of the incarnations of the spiritual sages of the past, like Jesus, Buddha, etc.? And I know you've gone into this in other sessions, but he's asking this. And was it to spread God realization? And Clea adds this comment. We know that every essence's purpose for being inside the matrix is simply to have fun, and that these essences just want to explore certain aspects of reality. But we also like to do certain things, like in Clea's case, to spread messages. How did these sages perceive their own mission or life experience? What were they trying to accomplish? And why did they all incarnate around the same time or within the same reset? Me. Yeah, so they all incarnated 2 resets ago, because at that particular point, we believed we were still fighting and believed that we could fix things. And these individuals simply chose to take it upon themselves to show certain things and to spread certain messages, just like we are doing now. Obviously, they weren't spreading messages about the 25th, because again, we did not want this information to be known. However, they were spreading very high vibrational messages. Now, we already said, doesn't mean they were better than anybody else. This is just what they took upon themselves. Like in Clea's comment, it's what they chose as a mission for themselves. We already know there is no mission. There's no objective mission. It's just a matter of what does the higher self want to explore in a particular lifetime. And again, these people are just, they themselves were saying that they were no better than anybody else. So we're not saying anything revolutionary here. Of course, they came in to have fun like everybody else, but they didn't want to explore this life path where they wanted to rebalance things. They very much felt that things were dark, as many of us have, and that they wanted to explore this higher vibration. So did they come in to spread this idea of God realization? I mean, this is his terminology. They basically just wanted to be more spiritual at a time when we wanted to be here more. We wanted to be more 3D. Only recently, really, we become this spiritual because now we like to qualify this. We said this a million times. We are a spirit. They were laughing here. We cannot help but being spiritual, okay? In fact, the only thing that is real is that we are spiritual. Everything else is made up. I mean, we are a source. You cannot get any more spiritual than that, okay? We're laughing some more here. When we say that we have not been spiritual and only now we're becoming more spiritual, we're talking from a very 3D perspective, in the sense of when we wanted to express our spirituality here, we were channeled into religion. There's nothing spiritual about religion per se, which is not to say that the people that do follow religion are not spiritual, okay? It simply means that we were corralled into an institution to get us back into the game at a 3D level. So we will not be following so much or letting our spirituality run in all directions, because really spirituality is energy. We are energy. We are spirit and energy. And therefore, all of a sudden, look at us. We open ourselves up, and now all of a sudden we have everything available to us that was not allowed. But it was not allowed because we didn't want that. We wanted to believe in this game, as painful as it has been for many of us. And so did they come in to spread God realization? Again, he wants to use this terminology. They've used all kinds of terminologies around these people because, again, we like to idolize certain ways of living here. We like to think these people knew something we don't know. We like to think these people were better than us. We wish we could be like them. And we talked about this, like you mentioned. We talked about this at length, especially in the last session. But the point is, they were spreading messages and they were very interested in spirituality and connecting with themselves and connecting with source and connecting with energy. And considering the times, this was very good because all of us have always, you have to understand, the higher self. There's nothing more interesting for many of us than to connect, to go inside. But we've always looked for ways to do that that did not upset the game. Because remember, we are doing this. We're going inside while we want to believe that this is real. You see, Lorrayne, you yourself in your present reality, we know this is happening to Clea. You see how much trouble you're having connecting and keeping both balls in the air, if you want to see it that way. Where you know this is not real, but you also want to keep it in place because we don't want to know all of it. And again, we said it's because of the emotional burden that will come with it. We just don't have the means here to deal with it. Probably many of us would be disintegrating into tears for eons. We wouldn't even be able, who knows what would happen. We just don't want to go through this at a human level. And so did it come in to input a new experience, to make many aware by their example of the idea that this experience could be had? Yes. At the same time, why are they famous? Because these are just famous people. They were not any more enlightened than many others who have walked this planet and have chosen that experience. Why these people? Because, and we already said this, it's a system that's lifted them up on a pedestal and then deformed their messages in many ways and used them to make a point, the point they wanted to make, not the point that these people, these individuals were actually making. We already know, for example, in the Bible, most of the Bible is made up. It's not actually what happened. It's certainly not the purpose or the intention that Jesus had. And Jesus was very enlightened in terms of how we think of enlightenment. So he would have not, a lot of things that we are told are gospel, and we're laughing here, in the Bible that are truth, ultimate truth, make no sense if you break it down. It makes absolutely no sense, some of these things that we are told. But then we're told, oh, sometimes they're metaphorical. Okay, then. And they were laughing again. You see, we make excuses for ourselves. So there are many layers that are involved in this question, really. What he's asking is, were these people special? And did they come to teach us the things that we still haven't learned and we would like to learn? Or maybe that he thinks we are learning now. And so they were not special, which is not to take anything away from them, okay, at all. They were essences. They were free. They chose their own path. This is what the essence is always doing. The essence is always special if you want to think of the fact that you are free as being special. And did they want God realization? They wanted us to remember that we're spiritual, but really it wasn't just us. Of course, they wanted to spread the message. It was them. They were enjoying a certain experience of life, and they spread the information about the fact that they were having this experience. So of course, because we're suffering, just like we're suffering now, we said to ourselves, oh, we wish we could be that copacetic. We wish it could be that compassionate. We wish it could be this and that. But the 25th, we said this many times. The 25th has spoken about this. We have spoken to you, especially in the last session, it said, we want this world to look a certain way. Who's supposed to maintain it? If everyone was Buddha or Jesus, we would not be able to maintain this reality. And then what? I mean, we're not going to go into this much longer because, as you know, we will refer Prani to the previous session. So the question from Clea was, why do they all pretty much incarnated at the same time? It's because there was a time where it was dark, because the balance had already been lost. And there were still essences that wanted to experience this. They wanted to bring forward the fact that there could be a different way of relating to reality. But since then, as you know, we've done away with a lot of that. In fact, religion doesn't really even put on a pedestal people like them anymore, because at least it was talking about people like them, even though it was destroying their messages to achieve its own purposes. Now instead, who do we have put on a pedestal? People like Mother Teresa. There's nothing light there about Mother Teresa. And they were laughing here. And I would refer you to one of the previous videos that speaks about her, and she was definitely not of the light. At least these people like Jesus were of the light. In the case of Mother Teresa, I mean, do you see? This is what we get because the system has become so much more efficient. And of course, the darkness has become more and more. That's why, you know, at that point, we already said we weren't able to catch up anymore. So now we come up to an extreme degree of negative polarity until very recently. So that's the only reason why this has happened in this way. But again, the only reason we remember these people is because the marketing arm of things, which in this case was religious institutions, decided to speak about them. Otherwise, they would be lost in history, just like many like them. They are not the only people who want spirituality in their 3D experience. Lorrayne. not only do we put people like Mother Teresa on a pedestal, but we put people like the singer Madonna. And you're the 25th was laughing, saying, yeah. I hope you enjoyed this video. Prani, thank you so much for your questions. Always on point, always perfect. And please feel free, if you have any questions, to write them below or put them in my Telegram group. I'm always happy to inquire. This is how we're all learning more and more about how our reality works. So I truly enjoy them. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.